So hello and welcome to this new Gaia Sky tutorial. The topic today is camera paths. Camera paths are files which contain the information of a succession of camera states. This is the position and the orientation of the camera, and are used to save paths or trajectories of the camera. This is a sort of a roller coaster rides inside of Gaia Sky. So now there are two ways to capture camera paths in Gaia Sky. The first one is by using the camera recorder, and the second one is to construct them or to model them directly using the keyframe editor mode, which is a bit hidden in Gaia Sky. I'll show you how to do that. So first, let's have a look at the interface. Maybe I should make this a bit larger, so let's press P. Now go to interface tab and select UI scaling 2 times. Okay, so now we can open the camera pane here. Let's just close the time pane, and if you can see here at the top there are 3 icons. The first one is to start recording a camera path. The second one we'll see later, which launches the keyframe editor in Gaia Sky. The third one is used to play previously recorded camera path file. So now we are here on the Earth, and let's just click on this, and if you see here this turns red, this means that the camera is now being recorded, and I can move around a bit. Let's just move around the solar system, maybe exit it. Yeah, okay, that's probably enough. Let's go back, and now I'll just stop. So now if you can see here at the bottom it says camera path recorded to this location. Now it disappeared, but you can always have a look at it here at the bottom. So that's the location where your camera path is saved. This is a regular text file with an extension GSC. This is Gaia Sky camera. And if we want to access this file, this camera path file, we can press this play button, and it's right here. So that's the one we just recorded, and we can run it or play it. And now, if you can see, I'm just moving away from the keyboard and mouse, and I'm just letting it run. So basically it's playing exactly what I did before. Okay, it finished. So there's let's see, there's something important, and that's the target frame rate. So usually graphical, so real-time applications have a certain frame rate, which means how fast the frames are being output to the screen. If you want to check your frame rate, usually measured in frames per second, this is how many frames the application is producing each second. You just press Ctrl D, and that brings up this DPAC window here, and now it tells me that it's around 30, and it's kind of locked into 30 because I limited it. So if we press P, we can go to graphics settings, and here at the top there's maximum frame rate. If I click this, so you can enter here whatever value you want. When this is checked, your frame rate will be locked. Now I'll uncheck it. I'll uncheck also the VSync, which basically caps or locks the frame rate to the refresh rate of your monitor. And I'll save, and if you can see now it's a bit higher than before. It was 30, now it's around 180. Okay, so I'll just cap it, and here I'll input 30, save, and now come back here, and these are the properties of the camera recording system. And if you see here, there's a target FPS. This is the frame rate at which the camera path file will be captured. So if the current frame rate is higher than this value, it will be capped automatically when you record the camera file. If the current frame rate is lower, then there's nothing we can do. So always try to set this to a value which is either equal or lower or lesser than your actual frame rate. Okay, so that's pretty much everything with the basic mode. You just can combine this with anything. So for example, I'll start recording the camera again, and now I'll change into game mode. And as you can see, now I'm in game mode and I'm moving around freely. Let's go to the moon maybe. Let's see if we can fly close to the moon. So you can see here is the moon, and now we can visit some other planet. Maybe, let's see, where is the Earth? Let's leave the Earth and the moon system, and maybe go to, where is Mars? Mars is this red line, so it's here. So let's fly to Mars. We're getting closer. Okay, here is Mars and the moons. So I'll just click 1 to get back into focus mode and stop recording, and now I'll play this back. So now we have 2, that's the new one. I'll just play this. And as you can see, now it's mimicking exactly what I did. So even with different camera modes, etc. Okay, I'll not leave it until the end. I'll just kill it, and if you're playing a camera path file and you want to kill it, there's a new icon here. You can just click it to stop. Now it's stopped. Okay, let's press home and back to the Earth. So the second way to create camera path files is using the keyframe editor mode. And in order to get this, we need to click on this middle icon here and just click it, and it brings up this this window. Maybe that's a bit too large, but it's fine. So I'll just remove the orbits, Shift O, and if you can see here, there's a button which says Add a keyframe at the end. We have here a keyframes list, which is now empty, and here some seconds after the previous one. This is because the keyframes are separated a certain amount of time, and here we can input the default value and an optional name. If we don't enter any names, it will just name them keyframe 1, keyframe 2, etc. This we'll see later. So let's start by creating some keyframes. So let's add one here, another here. There is key binding to add new keyframes, which is Ctrl W. Now I'll press Ctrl W, and now, as we can see, we have 3 keyframes. Let's zoom out a bit. Maybe let's close this, and as you can see, we have these 3 keyframes here. So if we open it, we see that this is this keyframe, maybe like this. The first one is that one here. The second one is this one here, and the third one is this one here. And if you can see each of the keyframes, let's just let me just change the line style. Okay, so we can select keyframes by using or clicking on them with the right mouse button. So now this one in purple, keyframe 2, is selected, and you can also see here, which is in highlighted, and we can move it around also by using the right mouse key and dragging the mouse around. The keyframe always maintains the distance to the camera, so if you move it anywhere, it will move in a sphere. Basically, you see the lines joining the keyframe now go through the Earth. We can select any of the keyframes and move them around, so for example like this. And if you see, there's yellow lines and there's green lines. So the yellow lines basically join keyframes, so it tells you which the sequence of it tells you about the sequence of keyframes. So if two keyframes are connected by a yellow line, you see that you know that one is right next to the other, and the green line is the actual path that will get generated. Now it's this kind of curved line, and this is because we are using splines. We can change that here in the preferences. So you can see now we are using splines for the camera position, which is the green line, and the orientation, which are these lines here. I'll talk about them later. If we change that, so the camera position to a linear interpolation, you'll see that the green line disappears because the camera path will follow exactly the yellow lines. So save them, and as you can see now, the green and the yellow lines are on the same position exactly. So let's bring them back, because splines are a bit better because they generate softer and smoother paths without sharp edges or sharp turns. So let's save this, we get this line back. Okay, so what else? You see that each keyframe has basically three properties. One is position, so the position of the camera. Another is the direction of the camera. Here we represent it with the red line, so the red vector at each of the keyframe positions is the direction of the camera, and then the up vector, which tells us where the camera is looking. So the up can go all the way around the direction. And the up vector we generate, or we represent with this blue line. We can modify them on the fly also. So if you can see, if I press Shift and move the mouse with the right mouse button pressed, I'm rotating the direction around the up vector. I can do the same if I press Control and also with the right mouse button, I rotate the up vector around the direction vector, and with that we can basically rotate the orientation of the camera at this keyframe however we want. Okay, let's add some more keyframes. So let's maybe look here. By the way, when we add a keyframe, we are adding it with the current state of the camera. So whenever you add a keyframe, it will get added with the current direction, up vector, and position of the camera. So now let's add another one and another one. Maybe we complete the orbit around the Earth, and now maybe we just zoom out a bit. Okay. Okay. So now we have, as you can see, we have here, maybe close this. We have a few keyframes already. So it starts here, it goes all the way around, and then it goes back all the way here, and then it comes back again. So we start close to the Earth and we finish far away from the Earth. So we have this keyframe list. You can explore it like this. If you're using splines, you may want to set some keyframes to be so to break the path at some points, and we do that by clicking on this icon here, which stands by seam. So it stands for seam, this S. And if we click on this, you see that now at this position, the line, the green line, does a sharp turn. This is because now we have split the path into two different paths, or two different splines. The one which goes from the beginning until this point, this seam, and then the next one which goes from this seam until the end. If we add more seams, it will keep splitting the path. So we can go ahead and remove this if we want. Also, we can use the first icon in each of the keyframes to check where the position and direction is. So this basically sets the camera in the state of this keyframe, and we also can use this to add a new keyframe between this one and the next. It does basically a simple linear interpolation and it puts it in the middle. And we can also remove the keyframe by clicking on this icon. Okay, now, so if you can see here, the first item in the list is the second at which this keyframe is visited by the camera. This is sometimes not the usual or the ideal, let's say, way of doing things, because the distance between keyframes is not always the same. So what happens if you keep the same time between them is that the camera will accelerate and decelerate a lot. So let's keep that in mind now, and I'll save this to a keyframes file. So here we can load keyframes files, we can save them here. So let's just save this. We can add a name, so let's say first.gkf, which is Gaia Sky keyframes. Let's save it. Now I'll close this window and you'll see that we'll exit edit mode. So now we are not in keyframe edit mode anymore. If we want to get back into edit mode, we need to click on here again. And if you can see now it's empty, but what we can do is load the one that we just created, which is this first.gkf. And as you can see now we have it again. So it saved it into a file and we recovered it from a file. Okay, so these files, so if you save using this button and load using this button, these contain information about the keyframes. So these files cannot be played as a camera path. To do that, we need to export whatever is currently loaded in the editor to a camera path. So I'll just click on this and I'll create a new camera path file called first, okay, called GSC, so Gaia Sky camera. And now if we go here to play, to run a camera path file, we get also this one in addition to the others that we created before. Now let me just do something more. We have this button here which says normalize times to constant speed. What this does is this modifies the times between keyframes so that the speed is constant. And usually that's something that we will want. So I'll just click this now. Okay, you see that the times now are modified. The total length is maintained. So if we have like 14 or 15 keyframes, it will take 15 seconds because we just had 1 second between keyframes, but you can modify this. And now I'll save this as a keyframe file. I'll call it second. Okay. And I'll export it to a camera path also, and we'll see the difference. So second. Okay, close this. Now we can check our, I'll activate the orbits to bring up a bit more context. And now we'll play first the first keyframe file, which is between keyframes there's 1 second every time. So you'll see that the camera speeds up and slows down a lot. So let's just run this, and you can see now it's running again already. And you see that the camera is quite smooth, but now it's speeding up a lot. We're going away from the Earth, and now it finished already. Now we will play the second one, and in this one you will see that the first part is very fast because the speed is maintained across the whole path. So the camera speed is always the same from the beginning to the end, and at the beginning you are very close to the Earth, but the distance is very short compared to the rest when we go away. So you will see the difference, and it's very apparent, especially in the beginning of this camera path. So let's just run it. You see, at the beginning it's very fast, and now it's exactly a bit slower, but it's not because the camera is slower, it's just that we are much farther away from the Earth. So just a few words to finish. The camera path files are saved in the disk, so they are in your Gaia Sky folder. If you want to know exactly the path of this, you can come here to System, and there's this entry which reads camera paths. So this is where all of the camera files and the keyframe files are stored. And that's pretty much it. Just feel free to play around with it. You can create camera paths to visit your favorite objects or maybe your favorite clusters. So just feel free to play around with it, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.